Hi, everyone. Welcome for my second Facebook Live of the day. This is Tami Stackelhouse, founder of the International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute, author of Take Back Your Life and The Fibromyalgia Coach. And I am here with the woman who made that all happen for me, Angela Loria, the author incubator.
Yay! I am so excited to do this Facebook Live with you because this is like your new thing. I keep seeing you on Facebook Live.
Yes. I've been doing one every day for the month, and today y'all get me twice. So
yeah. I thought I would be like your replacement Facebook Live, but you're actually doubling down.
Yeah. I went live this morning with Nick from the film Invisible. They're doing a documentary on fibromyalgia, which is really awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Can you in it? Can you be in it?
Yes, I am.
Perfect.
Of course.
I love it.
So, being that you are here with the fibromyalgia coach, I thought a great question that my audience would have for you is, how do you even write a book when you've got brain fog and chronic pain and fatigue? Obviously, I can give my answer to that too, but I know you've had a lot of other authors who have had chronic issues. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's so funny, but there are chronic pain, and then there's also like actual illnesses, like people who are going through illness. I have an author right now who's amazing. English is her second language. She has cancer. She's going through a ton of very aggressive chemo, radiation, and she's on, I want to say it's called cannabis oil.
Mm-hmm. CBD oil, probably. Yep.
Right. So brain fog, absolutely, like that is the maximum of like brain fog possibly. She's going through treatments like today, like right now, and writing her book. And the biggest thing I've been focusing on with her is teeny tiny goals. Don't get overwhelmed by the whole, don't even think about the whole process. Let someone else hold the whole process for you. And if you can be 15 minutes engaged with your book, but actually engaged, that's so much more than spending 6 hours feeling bad about what you can't do.
Oh, for sure.
So that is what I see as the difference. All of our authors that have chronic pain or brain fog or any of those issues, the ones that get through with the least drama, they have sometimes even more pain than other people. Sometimes even more brain fog. They just don't have the extra story. I'm not doing enough right now. Mm-hmm. I should be doing more. She's just like, and like, you shouldn't be doing more. Like, you're on cannabis oil and you're having radiation treatments this week. 5 minutes is great. Like, we'll catch up. You'll get so much more done if you don't add in beating yourself up. That does not help you get more done.
For sure. Yep.
So we had an amazing woman. She actually died this year, but she had a stroke. She was paralyzed on the left side of her body, and she was blind. And so she figured out what she needed to do, which she was going to speak her book and then have somebody type it and kind of clean it up for her. And she just did it. Like, she had this total freak out at the beginning that it was going to be too hard for her. And then as soon as we came up with the answer, she hit every single deadline as everybody else in her own way. And it's got to be your way. So you can't follow, if you're in a program or you somehow heard somebody on YouTube say you should write an hour a day, that doesn't apply to you. Don't stop following other people's rules. Listen to your body, because you can still get it done your own way.
I totally agree with that. That was for sure my journey, writing 2 books with fibromyalgia. The first one, and I wrote them both very different ways. The first one was a little bit, here and there throughout the month that I wrote. And then the second one I wrote in 3 days at the author castle.
Oh, that's right. You did. I remember. I was there.
Yeah. So there's lots of different ways that you can write your book. I think another question, and by the way, you guys, as you're watching this, if you have questions, please put them in the comments. This is sort of an Ask Me Anything with Angela, so please put them in there, whether they're questions for Angela about her process or me going through the writing process with her. We're both happy to answer. Another question I think people wonder is my story a good book, right? Like we have a lot of the people that I talk to, like we have our fibromyalgia journey, our journey with illness. And we kind of want to share that with the world, but we also wonder, is that going to make a good book?
Right. Probably not. So here's the thing. It can make a good book, but I remember being crushed when a writing coach told me this. I had this story that I think is amazing, and it's my personal story of being an exchange student and then hosting an exchange student. Mm-hmm. That experience. And I was like, here's all the reasons I think this is a good book. And my writing coach said to me, she's like, yeah, who's going to read that? Why are they reading it? How do you want the reader to be different at the end of the book? Where is the reader now, and what's the journey you're taking them on? So if you have a book which is Tell My Story, and it's for your granddaughter, then by all means, tell your story. It's called a journal. You can get it printed very cheaply and beautifully now. I have no problem. Do it. It's a hobby, but it's great. If you actually want to help people, you can't write the book for you. You have to write the book for them.
Yeah.
So you can tell your story, but the way you tell your story is in relation to their problem. So it's just like if your grandfather sat you down and told you a story about walking uphill both ways to school.
Right.
He's doing that because he's trying to tell you why you shouldn't complain about having to walk to school or wherever you're going. Mm-hmm. You have to put your story in the context of your reader, not just like, and then I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this, and you should think it's interesting. It's always about my speaker coach, who Majid, says, people are always tuned to what's in it for me FM, which is so true.
For sure. And I think there's so many things about our journeys that can help other people, and how we write that is it's everything.
Total. Yeah. Usually if there's a story you want to tell, part of you knows it can help people. And part of you is excited to just tell your story. It's a little bit ego. Mm-hmm. And what my goal is as the author incubator, not the book incubator, but the author incubator, is to find the true servant's heart and make that 80%, 90%, and take that ego part and say, okay, you're invited on the journey, but you get like a 20% share of the action.
Right.
Most people's books are the opposite. Their ego's way up here. And then they're sad. They're not making the difference, which is really in their heart what they really want to make.
Yep. Yep. There is nothing like getting those emails from somebody who's read your book and who says that it made a difference in their lives. Like, that is why I wanted to write my book, and why I'm so glad that I had you help me so that I could make that difference,
Right.
So,
it's huge. It's huge.
So tell us a little bit about your new book. You have a book that just came out.
I do. I have a picture of it right here. It's called Make 'em Beg to Publish Your Book.
Awesome.
It is all about what it takes to have a bigger platform, to reach more people, what would it take to get a traditional publisher, to get a TV show, to get the national media. What would it take to get people behind your message? And then, is that what you need right now? Is that the next step for you? For some of my readers it is. Or is there another step that is a short-term step between here and there? And so a lot of times that is about funding the movement. So if I remember correctly, you had a nonprofit when I first met you?
Yeah, I was actually
involved.
I had my coaching business, but I also had a nonprofit at the same time. Yeah.
So a lot of people have this movement. They want to have that. Like they want to have a nonprofit organization. They want to have a charitable organization. They have this bigger vision, this bigger dream.
Right.
And they're trying to fund it with passion, but not necessarily strategy.
Right.
So what I've done in this book is I've said, look, if you've got this vision, if you have this dream, you can actually fund it, make the same difference, but put some strategy behind it that'll allow you to keep going. So I think even though maybe in some ways the nonprofit organization, the mission of that organization was a little different than your institute now, in many ways, similar missions, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's always been all about helping that fibromyalgia patient out there who's feeling lost and alone to get the help that she needs, right? However it is.
Which one was easier to fund?
Not the nonprofit.
and
it's sad that it's that way, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah. So I did a training. It's a 19-minute training. I know people are busy. They got a bunch of stuff going on. You don't even have to look at it. You can have it on in the background while you're folding your clothes, doing maybe not the dishes because it would be noisy, but you can put the dishes away and turn the volume up. But it's 19 minutes. It's called quartermillionbook.com, quartermillionbook.com. And it teaches you exactly how to make $250,000 from your book idea before you even publish it. Crazy, right? So for all these people who have a story to tell, there's a way to fund your movement. There's a way to help people that doesn't require the genie coming out of the lamp. It doesn't require some guy in a skyscraper in Manhattan saying, your idea is good enough. Here's a check for $250,000.
Right.
You could just go earn that yourself if you want. And by the way, if you're the person who could just go earn that yourself if you want, you know what happens? You're also the person they beg to publish their book. Right. Oh, the irony.
I know. You know, one of the things that I learned from you too is that, and this is a hard one to wrap your brain around unless you've been part of a process like this, but that what we charge our clients is actually part of how we help them. And for me, that happened like the moment I paid you, right? Like the investment was significant enough that I knew there was no way I wasn't going to do the work. Like as soon as I paid you, I knew my book was done. And I think that a lot of times for those of us who just really want to help people, we don't realize how we're holding them back by not making them invest in themselves, right? Like the people that I have coached for free versus the people who have paid me, the people who have paid me have gotten the best results because they show up different.
It's so true. I wish it worked differently because I'd be totally willing to do my work for free. And
me too.
Host me. I could live on people's couches. Like I would probably get some nice couches. But the problem is that they just would not get the results.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't work that way. And I think especially when it's something like your health and wellness, you know, I just went to your doctor in Portland. I went to Lake Oswego Health Center to work on my shoulder. And the truth is, like, I could have chosen, like, people in my life who shall remain nameless, who I might love and possibly be married to. But like, I could have chosen to just have that pain or that chronic condition and not fix it. And I think if they just gave me, you know, a couple shoulder exercises that I could be doing, I wouldn't be doing them. But when you fly across the country and you know, pay for a flight, pay for housing, pay for medical treatment, it's thousands and thousands of dollars. Like you're probably going to pay some attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is what's required to make change. It is not required to make change, but if you want anything in your life to change, there has to be a commitment and the effort.
Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that there aren't people out there who are willing to do that for something that's free. It's just not That's not usually how it happens.
Right.
I mean, we all have, gotten the free downloadable course, do this, or buy the book and implement it yourself. And we just don't.
Right.
Yeah. It's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
It's all psychology.
Totally. So what's your favorite? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to remind everybody, if you have questions for me or for Angela, please post them in the comments. There is a little bit of a delay between when you type it in and when I see it. So please don't wait until the end or we might miss them. So go ahead and put those in. Anyway, you were going to say?
I was going to say, what's your favorite thing? You've written 2 books now.
Yep.
What's your favorite thing about being an author?
The people I get to help. Totally. It's all about the people I get to help. One of my favorite emails, and something that totally would never have happened if I hadn't written a book, is I got an email from a woman in Iceland who told me that her rheumatologist in Iceland had recommended my book to her. Now, I'm in Oregon. I've never been to Iceland. I don't know anybody in Iceland. Now I know her, of course, but that never would have happened without writing a book.
It's amazing.
It is. And I love getting my royalty statements, not for the dollars, but for the number of copies. Like I think I give away more books than I sell. But the number of people, like each book to me represents a life that I've touched. And I just there's nothing that compares to that.
So cool. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but do you know how many books you've sold?
I know our royalty statements are a little bit weird because of the Kindle Unlimited thing. So it's hard to say, but it's probably in the 5 digits, I think.
Yeah.
It's definitely
I'm curious. You are definitely one of our top sellers, and you're always in the top 3. And it's amazing to me because I would love to know, we don't get to talk to your readers. Is it do all these people have fibromyalgia? Are there readers who have somebody they love with fibromyalgia and they're trying to really understand it?
I know there's some of those for sure. I get emails about that.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's or do people realize that the name of your first book, Take Back Your Life? I think so many people with chronic illness, even beyond fibromyalgia, we write the book. I tell this story a lot. So we write the book for one person, and in your case, that's a person with fibromyalgia. But because we write it so specifically, it actually is more general. And I base it on this particular book called Letters to a Young Poet, which is a book of letters from Rilke, who is an Austrian poet at the turn of the last century. And the whole book is just 8 letters between him and a guy named Frank Cafis. And Frank basically wrote to him with one problem. And he's like, hey, you and me, even though you're 10 years older than me, we're both from military families and we're both poets. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of quitting my military job and being a poet. What do you think I should do? Now, I don't know many people that are from military families from 200 years ago in Austria.
Right.
That are deciding whether or not to be poets. And yet you could pick that book up and it's literally like Rilke is whispering in your ear. Mm-hmm. So I think it's so interesting that your book, even the title of it, Take Back Your Life, which I think is how so many people feel, is that exact same issue with Letters to a Young Poet, where it's this very, very specific, you're only talking to one person, but I bet if we could survey the thousands of people who have got your book, a fraction have fibromyalgia. And the rest are people who are like, I know how to apply this to me.
Yeah, for sure. And that's been true of my coaching business as well. I worked with a guy who had pulmonary fibrosis. He didn't have fibromyalgia at all, but a lot of the stuff that I teach is totally applicable. But, that it was that concept of an ideal reader that let me write my book. I had people tell me for years, oh, you should write a book. You should write a book. And I kept saying, yeah, but I don't know how. When I do my coaching calls, they're all individual for that particular person. How do I how do I get that out of my head? Like, I have nobody to interact with. How do I even do that? But creating an ideal reader profile and being able to write my book to that person totally unlocked all the magic. So
it is so magical. And I think that was true for Rilke as well. Is like, he didn't know he was writing a book. But
right.
When somebody, even somebody you don't know, like he didn't know this dude. They went to the same school. He's 10 years younger. They didn't even have friends in common. And this guy's like, this is what he wrote to him and said. He's like, man, I got to ask you a favor. Can you look at some of my poetry and tell me if it's any good? Like, super innocent question. He's like, if I'm going to quit, my parents are going to be pissed. It's going to be a big deal in my family. I know you'll get this. I'm not going to do it if this poetry isn't good. Will you let me know if it's good? And Rilke writes back to him and he's like, no one can tell you that. Mm. The answers are inside yourself. And then it's a journey through these eight pages. But I think if you said to Rilke a year before that first letter from Franz Kafis, hey, do you think you could write a life coaching book about following your bliss? He'd be like, no.
That's not my thing.
Poet. Yeah, like, I have nothing to say. Like, well, I haven't figured this shit out yet myself.
Yeah.
Like I would, but when somebody's in front of you, like there's Franz Kafis asking you, you're not going to be like, I don't know, fuck off, dude. Like, you figure out what to say in that moment. You rise. You're connected with source and truth. And the most generous, highest part of you is like, here is what you need to know. You're most likely not going to turn and pivot and walk away. And in those 8 letters, Rilke becomes, I think, the world's best life coach without ever thinking ahead, figuring out his program.
Right.
People like, I got to figure out my program. I got to figure out my niche. He did not figure out his niche. He just showed up and served. Mm-hmm. And he's serving now 200 years later. I get so excited about that book.
I know you talk about it often, but I think
supposed to be talking about my book.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, goodness. So Kate asked how I found out about you, which is actually a little bit of a journey. So Kate, I was in a networking group with another coach who invited me to a Facebook group where Angela was. And then I kind of just sort of stalked her a little bit and watched her publish like all of her authors, one after one after one, were all best-selling authors. Like all of them would hit number one. How many number one hits have you had?
267
in a row.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I was ready to think about writing a book, there was only one person on my list because if I'm going to write a book, I want it to be a number one bestseller. So I obviously need Angela.
You like to minimize her risks, Kate.
What was that? I didn't hear what you said.
You like to minimize your risk.
Yes, I do.
Every other person has done it.
Exactly.
Probably not going to be the first person that fails.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Oh, too funny. So we only have a few minutes left. So for the people who are watching, since a lot of these are going to be my people with fibromyalgia who probably have a story that they want to share, what would you tell them?
I would say think first before you write. Think about who you want to share the story with. I talk a lot about think about who you want to help. But even if you just take it one step back from that and imagine telling one person your story. And it could be your granddaughter. It could be your best friend. It could be somebody you haven't seen since 3rd grade that you want to explain why you ghosted on them. It doesn't matter who it is, but if instead of telling the story, you tell the story to someone, it's going to make it so much better put in that context. So that's where I'd start. Don't start writing. Start by figuring out who are you going to have a conversation with? Who is this dialogue for?
Mm-hmm. And think about what you want your book to accomplish, because I think there's a difference there too, right? If you
want to say, I'm just telling the story to tell the story, that is fine. I will bless you and keep you. But if you actually want something to happen, decide that before you start writing.
Love it. Love it. And for people who want to learn more about you, who are interested in writing a book, I did share the link to quartermillionbook.com, so I put that out there. What other links can we share with them?
So if they are thinking about writing a book, and they can also mention your name in the application, they can go to the authorincubator.com/apply. Now, the reason I mentioning Tami's name is because we are oversubscribed. We are generally sold out several months in advance, but I always save slots for people who come in through referrals because, frankly, they're just much more fun to work with. So if you do mention Tami's name, it moves you to the head of the line. So if you would like to do that. The other thing that you will find out through the application process is you'll actually learn, if you're wondering how the program works. So there's a cost of finding out, and that cost is telling me more about you and your book. I like to be in a dialogue with people, and so I want to understand more about you. So if you want a program description and pricing and information, go ahead and apply. You'll get all of the information about the program as part of the application process, so you can decide if it's a fit for you.
Awesome. And, my first conversation with you, the end result of that was, you know what? I don't really want to write a book. So for those of you out there who are like not 100% sure, then going through the process can help you be sure. And that clarity is like the biggest thing. Right.
Totally. I think the greatest gift that you can give yourself, and by the way, I bet this would help with fibromyalgia symptoms as well, is to commit 100% to being honest with yourself. An honest yes or an honest no, to me, are both equally great. Mm-hmm. It's when we choose to stay in this land of, I'm going to start eating healthy Monday. I'm going to stop eating gluten in the future. I'm going to start exercising in the future. That shit's dangerous.
For sure.
Because what you're training your brain is that you're a liar. Like, you lie to yourself. You can't be trustworthy. There's no way that you can build a relationship with clients, with the world, with your readers, if you don't first build that relationship with yourself. And the cornerstone of a relationship with yourself is honesty. So whether something, not just my program, but anything, a t-shirt. I had so many t-shirts in my life that they weren't like a hell yes. They were like I guess I shouldn't throw this out because my mom gave it to me.
Or it's only $5, so
it's only $5. Right. It's only $5. They gave it to me for free at the soccer game.
Right.
I just got a shirt for free on Cinco de Mayo at a restaurant in Newport News in Virginia. I have not put it in my closet. I'm never going to wear this t-shirt. I have it in my closet, but I haven't thrown it out yet. And it's like, I won't put it in my closet. I will throw it out. It's on my list to do. Because it's like, I'm not somebody who lies to myself. And putting it in my closet is some lie. It's like I'm going to pay my mortgage to store shirts I don't like. I'm going to someday need it. Like, I have 25 t-shirts. I do not need one I don't like. Right.
And there's so many, like the t-shirt example seems a little bit obvious, but there's so many ways we do that with ourselves. Like you said, your doctor maybe tells you to go gluten-free and you're like, well, it's kind of hard and I'm not really sure. And, what about the rest of my family? And what about this, thing? There's always a thing.
Always a thing.
Right. So, waiting to go all in on something until after the things are over, it's, just like, that's never going to happen. Yeah. And if that's what you want, like, you just don't want to deal with it with that stuff, then just own that, right? Like, I'm just not willing to do this. And
it's so much more powerful, actually. Like, it seems like this is what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, if I leave the door open to be gluten-free, I'll be more likely in the future to do it. Actually, no, you're so much less likely than if you just say, no, I'm not doing the gluten-free thing. I know it might work. I know some people have said it work. I've decided not to do it. If you own that, you will be surprised at how fast you'll be gluten-free. Because you're just being honest with yourself. As opposed to when you say, oh yeah, I'm going to do that in the future, then you don't have to face the truth, which is like you're not being nice to yourself. You're not, we're getting kicked off.
I just saw that too. Hi, Robin.
Anyway, we could talk about this stuff forever because it is fascinating.
It is. It really is. So I put both links in the comments for you guys watching this. You can find Angela on Facebook. You'll just look her name up. You'll find her. She's tagged. And you will see me tomorrow. I've got another one. Tomorrow I'll be on with
lady.
Yes, it's going to be a marathon, but it's been fun. So thanks for being here, Angela. It's been a lot of fun, and can't wait till I see you next time, which I think is in Scotland.
Let's do that.
I think that's a good plan.
Okay.
All right. See ya. Bye, everyone.